Right, welcome to our first lesson on data. We are looking at statistics today. And what we're going to be doing first today is to do what we call data handling cycle, which is basically what you have here in front of you. Okay. Right, so the first stage in the data handling cycle is to decide what data you need to collect and how you're going to get it. Now, I want us to think about a case of some students in a class. Say, for example, I've got 30 students in a class. And in this class, I'm interested in finding out whether girls are better in maths than the boys. So I want to find out whether that is, whether, say, for example, boys are better than girls in maths. So to find out that, what I'm going to need to do is to collect data to prove it. Okay. So I believe that in a class of 30 students, the boys are better in maths than the girls. So to prove that, I'm going to need data. Now, the data that I'm going to need here could be things like, for example, their test score in maths. So the marks that they get in a maths test. Okay, so it's going to be the test score in a maths test. Now, what's going to happen now is that I will need to think about how I'm going to collect this data. There are two ways I can collect this data. The first way is to get them, give them a test, maths test, mark it, and then compare their results. The other thing I could do is to just go to their teacher, who will then print the data out for me, so then I can just compare. Okay. So I've got 30 students in a class, and I believe that the boys are better in maths than the girls. Now, to prove this, to find out whether this is true or not, I will need to I will need to get their test score in a maths test. And there are two ways I can do that. Number one, I can give them a test myself, mark it, and then I can then compare them. Or I could just print out some results of some tests they did a long time, maybe last year, from their teacher. So what I'm talking about here, number one, is what primary data is. So I could use primary data, which is the data that I collect myself. So I will give them what test to do, and then I mark it. So I'll be collecting that data myself. Another thing I could use secondary data. Now, secondary data will be the data that somebody else has collected. For example, some results of previous maths tests they did with their teacher, which was marked and saved in the system. I could just ask their teacher to print that out for me, so then I can use that. So there are two types of data we're talking about. We're talking about primary data, or we're talking about secondary data. The primary data is the data you collect yourself, using questionnaire or by doing an experiment or just by doing a survey. But secondary data is the data that has been collected for you. All you need to do is to get it and use it. And you could get it from things like internet, from the newspaper, from the computer. Okay. So what we're doing today is classify data into two types: primary data and secondary data. I would like you to pause this video and try answer this question here, which says that Maria wants to know if there's a link between area and population in 10 African countries. Okay. So I want you to pause the video and try question A and question B and question C, please. Okay. So the question says, Maria wants to know if there's a link between area and population in 10 African countries. Now, a link basically means something like this, that maybe she thinks that the bigger a country is in terms of area, the higher the population. So bigger countries have got so many people living there. So that's what she might have thought. So therefore, she's gonna try and find this one out. So question one says, what pieces of data does Maria need to find? Now, the first piece of data is going to be the area of these countries, right? So these 10 countries is going to need to ask herself, what is their sizes? What's the area? The other thing she's going to need to ask herself is the population. So how many people are living in these countries? Okay. So the vast set of information will be the areas and populations of the 10 countries she's interested in. So those are the pieces of information she'll need. That's the data. Now, where could Maria get the data from? She could print, she could go to the internet and find out this information, the areas of these countries and the populations. So the internet will be the best place, to do this. Now, is Maria's data primary or secondary? Again, printing information from the internet that's already there, that's going to be the secondary. It's going to be secondary data. But if she was to travel to those countries, and find out this information by, counting the people himself, measuring the area himself, then that will be primary data, which will be very expensive to obtain and difficult. Okay. Right, so I would like you now to pause the video and try question 2 as well. So this is example 2. So I'll go at this one, please. Okay, this one says that John wants to test whether a 6-sided dice, okay, has an equal chance of landing on each side. So dice would always be like a cube, and it's always labeled faces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the bottom. So it's a 6-sided dice, has an equal chance of landing on each of its sides. Explain how it could collect data for the test. Is this data primary or secondary data? Okay. Now, all he can do here basically is to do an experiment, and he's gonna have like a tally chart. So he's gonna throw the dice maybe 100 times or 50 times or 60 times, and keep writing down what side the dice lines on. Okay, so he's gonna have something like this. He's gonna have something like outcome, and then it's gonna have like tally. Okay, so the outcome is that this thing could land on a 1, on a 2, on a 3, on a 4, on a 5, or on a 6. So she can keep throwing this and just keep telling it. So for example, it lands on a 1 maybe 3 times, on a 2 it lands twice, on a 3 lands maybe 4 times, and so on for this one as well. So she can do an experiment like this, and then she will just then think about the tally she's getting here. So if there are more or less equal numbers of tallies for each outcome, then she can say yes, this 6-sided dice is basically fair. It's got equal chance of landing on any of them. Okay. Now, because he's doing an experiment, this is going to be primary data. It's not going to be secondary data. Okay. So again, he could roll the dice lots of times and record how many times it lands on each side using a tally chart. So that's how you can collect this data. And the data will be primary data because he's doing it himself. Okay. Right. So I would like you now to pause the video and try question 1 to 4, please. Pause the video and try question 1 to 4. Okay. So hope you've tried them. So with this, I'm just going to quickly show you the answers to this, because all you need to do is to tell whether it's primary or secondary. Primary data is data you collect yourself, and you can do that through questionnaire, through doing an experiment. Secondary data is data you can get from the newspaper or from the internet, anything that is already been collected for you. All right. So question 1 all the way to question 4, the answers are here if you just want to mark your work. Thank you.